what I'll do now is I'll just show you the steps I take to complete a job setup in Mastercam Milturn. First thing I do is I open up my model. I make sure it's in the correct place, correct orientation, and I'm using top plane. This is the first thing I do. Go select my machine. For this project, I'm using a DMG Mori machine. Okay, and you see that it'll take a few seconds. It's going to launch the Code Expert, and as soon as it loads, you'll see the first thing that comes up is my job setup window. Okay, there it is. Okay, first step, working down the list, is my machine configuration. I'm using chuck jaws for this project, so only thing I'm changing here are the jaws. So I'll double click, and I'm just going to remove a step here. Just remove that step. Okay, and all I'm doing here is I'm selecting reference point, making sure that all that's correct. That's good, nothing else to change there. And my right spindle, I'm just doing the same because this is a small part, so I'm just going to remove a step. Okay. All this should already be familiar to you because it's the same as it is in lathe. Okay. Again, minimum speeds, maximum speeds, change them as needed. The setup type for this project, I'm starting off on my left spindle. First operations are being done on the left. My part handling operations, I want to load a full bar so I can machine multiple pieces. So my operation here is going to be continuous bar stock with a pick off to transfer the cut stock to the sub spindle position. I want a stock pull, so I want to use my sub spindle to pull the bar for another part to come from that bar. And then ultimately I cut it off to separate the pieces, and again transfer it to my sub spindle home position. So this is the route I'm taking. I do not need to manually define the right spindle stock now. However, if I need to down the road as I create my lathe toolpaths, I can go back in here and change it to manually define right spindle stock. Keep in mind that I do need to have a solid model in the correct position, or an STL model at least. So again, here I'm leaving this checked off. WCS, again, always working with top. Group name, machine group 1, I can call this first operation. Okay, all right, so this looks good here. Again, this is live right now. This is the align to Z function. I don't need to align anything, okay, because it was placed properly before selecting my machine. So I'll exit out of here. All this is good. So, all right, so we're done with machine config, setup type, and WCS. Now let's work down to the left spindle. Okay, in left spindle, I'm going to select part geometry. Select this arrow here to select the solid model, and as you can see, this is my chuck, and this is my, I'm sorry, this is not my chuck, this is my stock for now, and here are my jaws. You can see they're not placed properly, but as soon as I start to define my model, you'll see that the placement changes for the jaws and the stock. Okay, so again, selecting part geometry, boom. You can see that adjustment already. Looks good, right? I want to create the right spindle geometry, okay, and it's going to be placed at an offset of 100, so it'll be, if I'm in level 1, it'll be level 101. I want to create wireframe geometry, so let's say create term profiles. And again, if you use create term profile before, it's the same function. Do you want to spin or slice? I prefer spin. So rather than using these two functions here for color and level, I'll just use attributes. Okay. So here I can select a different color for my term profile. I can change the line style if I needed to. Point style doesn't really apply. Also the placement of the level. Really, all I'm looking to do is change the line width along with the line with the color. Okay. So either or, there's no wrong way of doing it. I prefer to use attributes. Right, so working down the page, bar stock. All right, so here, notice how it went to the next nominal size, even though, just show you something here quickly. Let's minimize this window for now. So I'm clicking here, preview the boundaries, just so I can hide this job setup dialog box. And really what I want to point out is the nominal size of my stock. So if I go here and I analyze dynamic, you can see that outer diameter is 2 inches 180. Normally in lathe, if I selected it doesn't recognize the solid model, therefore I don't have stock size, so I need to round off to the next nearest nominal size. Okay, and then I'll press enter to continue. So I'm back in my job setup page. Okay, so number of parts, I'll type in 10. And once I type in 10, again, hiding this dialog box, you can see that that bar stock grew. Okay, if I enter 1, you can see that that stock changes. Okay, so again, to make it realistic, I make more than one part. Okay, that looks good. If I needed to add extra stock to that, I can. If I'm working with tubing material, I can define the inside diameter. If I do that, you can see here, you can see that broken line there turns into tubing material. Face and back stock. So normally we have some amount to face off, and in my main spindle, so this will be front face and then back face. And I also want some stock when I transfer over to my sub. Okay, so that looks good there. Now let's work down the list. Normally I don't change this. The way it's set is correct, so I want my Z0 to be the right face for my main spindle. Right face, good with that. Work offset number, so if I do not want to use G54, I want to use a different offset, here's where you change it. Stick out. Okay, so again, these values, you do not need to enter them. You use this icon here to define the stick out. So I want the face of my jaws to stop. Okay, select that position there. And again, this is depending on your application. I'm going to give it a 1/4 inch space, minus 250. Okay. You'll see the chuck jaws adjust. All right, that looks good. Again, do not need to enter these values. All right, now let's go to the right spindle. Again, that stays the same. Work offset number, if you need to change that, this is a place to change it for your sub spindle or the right spindle. Pick off. Okay, pretty straightforward. Click here. Now I'm selecting where I want to pick off. I can say the midpoint, or I can go up to an edge. Okay, looks good. And for cutoff, really I don't like to just type in the width because I can make a mistake. I can fat finger and type in an extra number or the wrong number. Best thing to do is click on that box so you can select a tool. And here I'll select a cutoff tool. Let's work down the list. Select a 1/8 cutoff right. Cool. Okay. Again, quick summary of what we completed. Most of the time consumed here is figuring out how you want to set up your machine. Okay. All this stuff becomes pretty automatic once you start using it. Once you get familiar with it, I should say, it becomes pretty automatic. And you'll see once I hit the green check mark here, view sheets will be created, and then also along with the levels. Perfect. Okay, so just to explain the view sheets, so in here, this view sheet has the level turned on so I can see both of my models, and it's fitted on my screen to see them both. If I go over to the next one, first operation right, it's focusing on my right spindle. First operation left, focusing on my left spindle. And then from here, it's familiar territory, similar turning toolpaths, and milling toolpaths. One thing to note, we do not have C-axis toolpaths. We are using milling toolpaths.